We're going to go ahead and get started with our next presentation. Taja Herford is here to talk to us about sexual health and drug use and misuse, drug and alcohol use and misuse. I guess those are synonymous. But so if you will, welcome her. She's new to our campus, and we're glad to have her here.
So my presentations are a little more interactive, and so we're not going to get you guys too comfortable in your seats right now. You guys are going to kind of split up into groups. Our first presentation is going to be on sexual health, and this is kind of the presentation that we would use during the EDHE classes to talk about sexual health. So it's a little more interactive, and so I want you guys to kind of get a feel of the different activities that we do through them. So basically, the title of the presentation is Getting the Business Before Getting Busy. And so how we would usually open up this presentation is just to start with some guidelines. So respecting the opinions and of others and active participation. We want people to actually talk to each other and get to communicate with their peers in order to learn more information. And so these presentations are, like I said, really, really interactive. It causes for a lot of discussion, and so you want to make sure that you're able to foster communication through the classroom. So sometimes, depending on how your EDHE class is ran, some students are a lot more comfortable talking within the class, and so what we like to express is that whatever is said in the room should stay in the room, because sometimes students, when it comes to topics of sexual health, alcohol, and drug use, may sometimes share a lot of information. So sometimes you want to make sure that they can express themselves, but what's shared in the room stays in the room, but what's learned in the room can leave the room. So just making sure that you reinforce that. You want to have a lot of dialogue throughout these presentations. So how we would start with this is just kind of giving them a foundation of the basics on sex. So what exactly is sex, the different kinds of sex, what is not considered sex, so kissing, cuddling, things like that, and then what is abstinence. And so you want to make sure that you're respecting the opinions of all your students and that each one of them is respecting the opinions of each other as well. And students are going to come from different backgrounds with this area. So some may come from private schools, some may come from public schools, some may have never had a health education program in their entire life. So you want to make sure that you're starting from the basics of what it is, and there is a script that you can kind of follow that outlines what the answers are. I know you guys bring a lot of knowledge and expertise to different subjects as well, so feel free whenever you're comfortable to chime in. If students have extra questions and you don't feel comfortable, you can always point them to me, the Health Promotion Office within Campus Rec. So whatever you're comfortable with sharing about yourself, the more you're open with the students, the more they'll be open with you and they can learn. So after that, we would go into this activity called sex slang, and this is where we're going to start off. So I'm going to break you guys up into 4 groups, so if we can count off by 4s, starting right here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1,
2, 3,
4,
1,
2,
3,
4. 1, 2, 3,
4,
1,
2, 3, 4,
1, 2. All right, so I need all my 1s to come over here. All my 2s can stay over here. 3s are going to be in the back corner on this side, and 4 over in this back corner. That's really good. I'm going to read ours.
Obviously, I thought it was 4. Where is it? Okay.
3s are in the back corner over there.
You're 1.
Oh, I'm a 1.
All right, you guys get comfortable sitting facing each other. Or standing, whatever is comfortable for you. You guys are sitting for a while. All right. So now that you guys are in your groups, what I'm going to do is hand each group a card. And one's going to be labeled butt, one's going to be labeled sex, one's going to be labeled vagina, and one's going to be labeled penis. And you guys are going to have a few minutes to write how many words, different terminology that you can come up that replaces this word. So your group, we're gonna give vagina. There's that. Your group, we're going to give sex. Give that one.
How appropriate.
Are we to be in programs?
Yes. Whatever you come up with. And the last one right here is going to have butt. So just take a couple minutes in your group and discuss different terminology for this word.
Netflix and chill. Doing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The ladies, the photo coach.
It's some form of
Yeah,
sex.
that's where that
Risking offending pleasure.
Very raw.
That's what I was going to say. There we go. Got those two up. Oh, yeah. Give that one. Give that another one.
Please repeat that. He is a baby.
Can you just write thus? Yes. That's precisely how I would like it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's so hard to love that.
See, in this context, I don't know how to get that's when somebody goes into my face and it's trying to.
Yeah.
You guys have about 30 more seconds.
That's a solid list, and I'm not reading aloud.
I'm sure that
Oh, yeah.
That's an old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to bring the attention back to the front of the room. Everybody will bring the attention back to the front of the room. And we're going to start with this back corner back here. So tell us what your word was and then read off your list.
All right, so our word was butt. And so on that list, we had booty, behind, junk in the trunk, badonkadonk, ass, cushion for the pushing, back end, tush, backfield.
All right. Anybody else have any more slang terminology that they use for the butt?
Moneymaker.
That's a good one.
Moneymaker. Shake the moneymaker, yeah.
Did you guys have rump on there? Rump? All right, so we'll move over to this group right here and tell us what your word was and your slang terminology.
Our word is penis. And our
And this is the typical response of students. Students know math, it's meant to be fun.
we have member, phallus, willy, tallywhacker, wee-wee, TT, wag, Richard, dick, schlob, one-eyed monster, mini-me, and baloney pony.
Okay,
Wait, baloney pony, that was from, Ben, Garfield Ben.
are there any other suggestions for the word penis? Any other ones? Johnson.
Oh, man.
Dragon. Yeah, heard that one before.
One-eyed wonderworm.
Okay, great. Let's come over to this group right here. What do you guys have?
Vagina.
Do you want to report? Do you want me to?
Whatever.
Yeah, I know we're recording this. That's
Not cool.
I just sent it to Dana real quick. She's out on maternity leave.
All right,
Vagina.
vagina.
Rachel do that.
Vulva, beaver, vajayjay, muff, clit, cooch, twat, pussy, box, badge, snatch, the C word, cunt, coochie, baby. That's the word.
Right. Pretty extensive list. Is there anything that they missed on that one? Yeah. You guys were spot on with that. Good. All right, our last group, bring it home for us.
Sex. Doing it, intercourse, hooking up, screwing, P in the V, bang, horizontal no pants dance, making love, and the big F.
All right. Any other words for that?
Knocking boots.
Knocking boots.
Bumping uglies.
What is it?
Bumping
Ever since
All
the
right.
kid came along.
Netflix and chill. That's one.
Just one.
Alrighty. That's great. So basically what we want to do from this, and there's a little video that's associated with it, and we'll see if it'll play. It might not work in here, so I won't be shocked if it doesn't.
I do too many as it was.
You know why we're here today? That's true, but we're here to talk about the birds and the bees. You ever heard about the birds and the bees? Okay, well, I don't know if they say that anymore, but when Daddy was there, they called it the birds and the bees. And Mama, they don't even tell her in China where babies came from. She had to find out all by herself. They didn't talk about it, so she was pretty surprised when you came along.
Because I was like, when I was big, I was like, where am I? Some kind of tunnel or something?
Some kind of
Well, you
tunnel.
can see, huh?
And then when you moved, and I was like, oh, a walking tunnel.
It's crazy. Well, before you got into that tunnel, okay, you were made. And do you know how babies are made?
Well, sometimes they call it a tunnel because there's some kind of hole here, like an igloo.
An igloo in Mama's belly, huh?
So how could you get in the tunnel?
Well, maybe the musician sang.
The magician sent you in there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Daddy must be a magician. Right?
Going, ha ha ha.
But we're going to tell you about how babies are made. Would you like to know how babies are made?
Made a bottle. Humans are made a bottle. I knew it.
That's true.
I knew it. I
There's a lot of
really
water.
knew it. Oh my gosh, I'm so smart.
Mommy and Daddy decided we were ready to have you, right? Mommy decided that she was ready to have something inside her igloo. So Mommy and Daddy got together and we took off all our clothes and we got inside the blanket so we were really warm. And then Mommy and Daddy did a special dance and did their woo. That's how you were made.
Oh my gosh, so it is really, really, really not good if you took out all your clothes off.
Well, we have to take our clothes off if you
Ah!
want to make a baby.
Oh.
Does that surprise you?
Oh my gosh, it doesn't. Really doesn't. That's really just something, you know. Or not. Oh.
Well, I'm glad Mama didn't say that. When Daddy took her clothes off.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, and I hope you don't start over again.
Okay, I'm not gonna do it again, Daddy.
So basically, that video is kind of to show, like, some of you guys have different comfortability levels with talking about sex, and there's different foundations that you guys come from, and so sometimes communication is not clear when we want to describe what we want from our partners, and so this activity was really to explain communication in sexual relationships. So the main takeaways are slang isn't understood by everybody in the same way, and that people might be uncomfortable with talking about it, but it's important to have the talks. And that people have personal preferences for their use of their body parts. So some people aren't comfortable with the word pussy, some people aren't comfortable with the word Johnson, things like that. So you want to make sure that you're really communicating with those who you're sexually involved with to make sure that communication is clear and that there's no room for interpretation. So those are the main takeaways from this activity. So then next we would go into this activity called the consent game, and we're not going to actually do this one. I'm just going to kind of show you what it's about. There are different scenarios that will be presented to the students, and so you guys are already divided in your groups. Each group would get 3 cards. It'd be a yellow card, a red card, and a green card. And the different meanings of the cards are on the board. So I'll read a scenario to the class, And then green is to say that it's okay to engage in sexual activity, that communication was clear, consent was there, everything's good to go in that circumstance. The second one would be to communicate with your partner more before you engage in intercourse. And then the last one is that you should not proceed in sexual intercourse. So these different scenarios range from those who have verbal consent, those who are under the influence, those who are coerced into having sex. So it covers a variety of scenarios so that students can really get to talk to their peers about what they actually think is okay, and you'll be able to explain and clear up any lines that are misunderstood. So what we really want to take from this is that consent is a sober verbal yes. So if you're under the influence, you can't consent. And a lot of students don't have that understanding, is that because a lot of times with our party and our hookup culture, you're under the influence. And so sometimes those lines can get blurred. And so I'm gonna read a couple scenarios just so you guys can kind of see what the scenarios are about. So the first one is Sarah and Juan have been going out for several months. On several nights, Sarah and Juan spent the night at each other's places and sometimes cuddle and make out. One night, Sarah and Juan decided that they wanted to take their relationship to the next level by engaging in oral sex. During their activity, Juan placed Sarah on her back and proceeded with penetration activity. Sarah doesn't feel uncomfortable and is happy that Juan initiated. Do you believe Juan and Sarah should have proceeded with sexual intercourse? And so this gives the opportunity for the groups to kind of talk to each other, and then we bring the attention back to the front of the room and kind of share with each other what we think on that. And so there's different scenarios, like I said, that you can read off of, and there's points highlighted in the script that kind of talks about what you need to communicate with the students about. So then moving forward, we would talk about STIs. And so this is going to talk about bacterial and viral STIs. These are the main ones on college campuses. How bacterial ones are treated with antibiotics usually, and viral ones can't necessarily be cured, and that their symptoms are usually treated. So just highlighting that. And then going after that, we go into our condom demonstrations, which I'm going to do for you guys today. So with this, sometimes you can pull students from the audience to actually engage with this, depending on how comfortable your class is. Some classes are going to have students who are more willing to participate in front of the room. I know it's a sensitive topic, so sometimes if you might need me to come present it, I'm comfortable with doing the presentation myself. So whatever you feel is like the most important thing. Some students, like I said, want to be hands-on, so it's really up to you. Do I have any volunteers that want to help me through the demonstration? Because if not, I will do it.
I'll do it.
All right, come on down. Thank you so much.
What is this? What?
Condom demonstration. Volunteer before you know. All right, so in the kits that we have, the instructions are on the board as well, but we're going to walk through each of the steps, and you're going to show us how to correctly put on condoms.
Cool.
All right, so in the middle of the room, we'll give you this one. We'll start with the male condom, and I need you to read the steps as you go.
Okay, male condom correct order. Number 1, male condom available. Check expiration date.
So a lot of students won't even realize that condoms have expiration dates on them, so it's important to reiterate the fact that they do actually have expiration dates, and so make sure that you find it. What does your condom say?
EXP, I guess that's expires.
Expires,
Yeah, 10/2017.
So are we good to go?
So like 10/1. Like.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So.
Is that good to go?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Okay, number 2, male gets an erection. 3, remove condom from package. Push to one side and do not rip the condom. So
push it to one side.
is there like a little? Okay. Yeah. Is there a line? Cut here kind of thing.
Nope.
Sorry, I'm nervous.
But yet, he's still in good effect.
Yeah, he is. Okay, remove, okay. Push one side, ripped open. Okay, so pinch and inch.
So when you're describing these steps, you want to make sure you tell the importance of that. So does anybody know the importance of pinching an inch? why people say that.
To reduce friction.
Reduce friction, and also,
Get all there.
Collect the,
what was that?
collect the,
Mm-hmm.
Semen.
That's the main reason, yes.
I was trying to.
So pinch and inch, so find an inch, make sure it's the right way, I already know that. Oh, it's hard to hold one. Pinch,
All right.
yeah?
Yep.
Okay, pinch and inch. 5, roll condom down the base of the penis. Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, number 6, intercourse takes place. Male ejaculates.
Use your imagination.
Male ejaculates. Male holds rim of condom at the base of the penis. I'm having a hard time not like doing it like it's me, so I'm just gonna hold it. So at the base, this right here?
Yep.
Okay, hold it at the base of the penis. Remove penis from partner.
Now, why is that step important? That you have to hold the base of the condom and then remove the penis.
So it doesn't stay in.
Exactly.
Okay, and then number 10, remove. Okay, so, yeah, now throw away in trash can. So I guess take the condom off.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, it's not on
Now,
there.
can I show the class something first?
Yes, please.
All right. So we will clean you up in just a second.
Okay.
You're not done yet.
Normal step.
So something that's wrong with this condom is that it's too loose on the penis. And so there's different size condoms. And so we want to make sure that students know to get the actual size condom that they need because you don't want it to slip off. So just, trying to normalize that there are different sizes and that it's okay to find your proper fit. So whatever that is for the student, make sure that they're comfortable with that. And we have free condoms in the health promotion office, different size condoms, different colors. We also have female condoms, lube, and dental dams. So you can tell students that if they don't want to spend, $4 on condoms, you can always come to the Turner Center to get free ones. So that's the male condom. You want to do the female condom?
I've never done it before, but I'm totally down for it.
All right. So come back over here. Okay. This is your vagina. There you go. You can hold it if you want. And I will give you this. This is called a FC2. These are female condoms for those who haven't seen the packages before. Go ahead and read the steps.
On this?
On this. There are instructions on the back of the FC2.
Is that the right way? Is that way?
It's like that, really.
Okay, it's kind of symmetrical. Okay. Female condom is available.
All right.
First time ever. Open the package at the notches.
Wait, you forgot a step.
Look in her eyes.
Oh, check expiration date. Check expiration.
Did you ask for consent?
Ooh, good one.
Good stuff.
Good one.
You cool with this? She's cool.
She loves
We didn't ask
Yes.
it to give consent.
I give consent. Okay, open package at notches. Oh, wait, I still gotta check the expiration.
Mhm. Do you know where to find the expiration date?
Um,
But it's inside,
oh, it's inside of it?
like, inside the little notches.
Oh, I feel you. Okay. And the expiration is 1/8/2021. So
They last
okay.
a long time, so,
Okay, cool. So open it at the notches.
yes. There should be a clear tear here.
Oh, I see. Okay. So open packet of notches. Number 3, squeeze the inner ring at the closed end with the thumb and middle finger.
So unravel the condom. And this is the inner ring.
Okay.
Thumb and middle finger. Yeah, thanks. Encouragement.
Keep going.
Thanks, Savannah. Okay, so squeeze the inner ring. Oh, so like this thing.
Yes,
Okay.
thumb and middle finger. This is a hard one. Female condoms are harder to put on.
Squeeze the inner ring at the end at the closed end with the thumb and middle finger. Okay, I'm doing that. Spread the lips of the vagina.
It's open. We're good.
Yes. Insert the female condom like a tampon. So I really, not really.
Sometimes this is good for couples though, that they can experience putting on condoms for each other, things like that. So it's a good, not technically correct, but you want to be holding it with your thumb and middle finger as you.
So keep it pinched.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought that was more like checking it to see if it was, still intact or something. Okay. Still, I'm having a hard time. There's a lot of lubricant over here.
Okay. All right.
She's just called it over, man.
Okay. So, there's also one of these here. With index finger, push inner ring plastic. With index finger, push inner ring past pubic bone.
So basically all the way back.
Yeah. Okay. And then guide the penis into the vagina.
Okay.
No. Intercourse. Squeeze and twist the outer ring and pull out gently.
Yep.
Just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then throw away in a trash can.
Yeah. So female condoms can actually be put in a few hours before you're ready to have intercourse. And so you can let your students know that if they're going out for a good time and they want to get ready for the night, they can actually put in their female condoms up to 2 to 3 hours before they have intercourse, and it'll still be effective. So then, moving forward, we would talk about the testing centers that we have to make sure students are getting tested. We want to encourage students to know their status. I'm trying to put together a Get Yourself Tested event for the spring semester right now, so once that comes along, then we will promote that a little more, but there's some testing centers on there. And then at the wrap-up, something that we're doing new this year is I've created kind of an evaluation for the EDHE classes based for our sexual health presentations and our alcohol and drug use presentations. So if you could have your students fill this out at the end of the presentation and just return them to my office so that we can kind of see the feedback from the presentation, what the students are actually learning, and then I will input it into our database and things like that. So that's pretty much our wrap-up with the presentation for sexual health. So are there any questions for me? Yes.
Do y'all have free HIV testing for students back in health promotions again, or is?
No, it's going to be all in the student health center.
Is it free? Because for a while it wasn't free on our campus. Is it free again?
It is free.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
Can a male and female condom be used in conjunction, or is that a no-no?
That is a no-no. So one or the other. And if you want to be, if there's an accident, you can talk about the Plan B pill or things like that for extra protection, if there's any concern.
Who do I call to make this presentation in my class?
You can call me. I actually have my business card, so we'll pass those out at the end of the presentation.
I'm calling Jordan.
All right, any more questions for this one?
Did you say where we can find those sheets?
Fine.
The sheets that you want the students to fill out after the presentations?
Yeah, I have them all online, and I can send them to Pat Perry, and he can send them out to everybody. Yes.
You do have those demonstration things people can come and borrow for their class.
Yeah. If you're comfortable with presenting this material yourself, I'll have presentation kits for you guys to come and sign out. So it'll have the penis model and vagina model in it and things like that, everything that you need to basically do the presentation itself. And then you can just return it back to my office within a few days and go from there. Is that good? All right, so moving forward, we're going to talk about alcohol and drugs. And we're going to actually keep you guys in your groups. All right, so starting off, we would talk about, once again, basically active participation, things of that nature, making sure students are engaged in the presentation. And then we would go into talking about the laws and policies on our campus. So basically what we want to talk about is the legal drinking age being 21 and how the campus reinforces that. We follow the national laws. If you're not 21, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol. Also, we have the 2-strike policy. Does anybody know what the 2-strike policy is? Everybody good on that? And then we have the medical amnesty policy. Is everybody familiar with that policy? Okay, so basically, this policy is to encourage students to report more when there's an incident that's occurring. So if there are 2 students who are under the influence and say they're underage or whatever the case is, and a student may need medical help, but students are oftentimes scared to report that because they don't want to get in trouble if they are under the influence. So what this policy is put in place to do is to encourage students that, okay, if you report this incident, we're not going to give you a strike. So basically saying, please report. Even if you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, we still want to encourage reporting. And so the thing to remember with this is that there will still be the requirement of students to actually do the alcohol education portion. And so students sometimes feel like that's still a punishment, even though that's not supposed to be considered the punishment. So what they're doing now is working on a way to take away the fee that's associated with having to do the alcohol education component. And so it shouldn't feel as much like a punishment to the student for reporting, rather you still need to be educated on the behaviors that you made. So the medical amnesty piece really encourage students to report, even if you feel like you might get in trouble, because you won't get that strike under your name. And you'll still have to do the alcohol education component. There any questions on that one? Okay, and then also talking about how this is a smoke-free campus, so that includes vapors, e-cigarettes, things like that, making sure students know that our campus is smoke-free. So then, the first activity that we're going to do, since you guys are in your lovely groups, is our consequences and protective behavior ones. So I'm going to give you guys each a person. It's just an individual outline of people. And if you can take a color couple pencils out for your group. There you go. Guys, get some colored pencils this way. And so what this activity is going to be is each group is going to get assigned one of the categories on the board. So you guys are going to be group 1. And so I want you guys to draw what you think social consequences look like for a person who is overly consuming alcohol. That could be losing friends, that could be blacking out, things like that. Group 2, over in the front corner, do physical consequences. So that could be throwing up. Group 3, academic consequences, missing class, doing bad on tests, whatever the case is. And group 4, I want you guys to actually draw protective behavior. So maybe calling an Uber when you're out drinking, things like that. So take a couple minutes within your group and kind of demonstrate what that is for people.
So are they group 3 or we group 3?
Okay. You guys are academic groups, and then you guys should do protective.
Or we just like supposed to be
No, like kind of draw it, what's happening with that.
Well, we don't get to do that with no way. Just put a broken heart or something.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's it. The worst of the physical consequences.
I'm not sure what the technical behaviors are. What was it? Oh.
So like eating food while you're drinking, calling an Uber, things like that.
One of those could lead to ankle bracelets.
No, we're doing
Ankle break.
So we have physical consequences.
Pretty good.
Squiggly beside his leg.
These.
Growing down,
He is social as you get. Can we do something with money flying away? That's good.
If it really gets that bad, it could be something like, what about a house with an extra or something?
Yeah.
Or married.
Yeah, or
Non-traditional stuff.
Or you can you're at
Right. What about hospital? We all know how those.
Keys, we throw the keys in there because that would be the keys to your car. Would that? You're so good. Look at you. Were you a cartoonist? Like the way you drive?
Well, I noticed you were like, you jumped at the chance to get over here and draw.
Liquor's never been sick.
Yeah.
Those are never fair.
Never.
And you just stay within the lines.
When we get to the draw, I was learning this board, like I do it at bar. An old man and a bear.
I was gonna say there's more colors too. If we
Anything else?
Family.
Family, yeah.
Sweating.
So just.
There's all of that sweating. When you have to go back.
There you go.
Sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're. The mom's gonna have thicker hair.
In the ocean.
Mom's going to rehab because she's been codependent on you.
That's bad for sharks.
And she helps you.
Family program.
Yeah, family program.
30 more seconds.
Destructive objects. How for push the trash cans.
probably do an angry police officer too.
All right, let's bring our attention back to the room. All right, so let's mix it up some. Let's start with group 2 with physical consequences. Show us what you drew and explain to the class. We know you're not Picasso in here, so it's okay. So show us what you drew and explain what you guys had.
Well, our poor little guy's got wobbly legs. He's mixing up money, risky. Hungry. At different times, he was like really angry, like yelling and stuff, and crying, sweating. He's got an awful headache now, and then passed out sleeping. He vomits while he sleeps. That was pretty bad. Yeah.
Any other physical consequences that people can think of?
Well, since we just talked about that.
That is.
He's not performing.
All right, good list. So let's go to social consequences. What do you guys have?
Okay, so we have a variety of social consequences. Probably going to lose friends, disappointing family, mom and dad. Probably looking at jail time if it gets bad enough. Lost, broken heart, very sad, yeah. Blacked out, no memories of whatever it was that happened, but the money's gone, keys are gone, wedding has ended.
Wow.
Single
Lost
now.
a marriage.
Yeah, no, it went bad. First time in jail, ball and chain. Second time, house arrest, because it's modern.
Okay.
So it all went wrong. Social consequences.
Any other social consequences? That was a good list.
Operating a motor vehicle
Under the influence, yeah. Any other ones? All All right, so let's go to our last consequence, academic consequences.
So academic consequences, we had that he would be, or she, maybe sleeping through class or missing class, which would then lead to the F or failure, which could then also lead to the loss of scholarship money, which then leads back home. And you're done.
Good list. Anything else?
The fourth group.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
All right, so bringing home with our protective behaviors. What can we do while we're drinking in order to protect ourselves?
All right, we said we can make sure that we have a friend to hold us accountable. We can count our drinks on our wrist if we need to. We can make sure we have a full belly before. We can have some pizza, carbs, and drink some water. We could call an Uber or our friend. And we could also switch to clear liquid Sprite.
Good list. Any other comments on that? Any other protective behaviors?
Call an Uber.
Yes. Did you guys have that? Yeah, call an Uber.
Just not drink.
Just not drink. That's one. All right, good list. So what we would move forward with is we would talk about, we would take the kids through a virtual bar. So basically, let's see if this website will work for us. So with this, you can put in the gender of the person. So say you have a female who weighs maybe 163 pounds. She's 5'5", and we'll make her 21. So you can choose a drink for them to drink, and there's a compiled list. So I like to drink margaritas, so we'll make her drink a margarita. And you can pick the time for drink a, I mean, it's more for like shots or something, you know, but a minute of, you know, a margarita. Some people, you know, might chug it, so. We'll put it at 15 minutes, and then you can hit drink. And so this will show what your blood alcohol concentration is at. And then what you can do, you can add a different drink if you want, change the time, eat food, and see how that changes it. So if you do that, it'll tell you how long it takes until your BAC returns back to base level. And so sometimes what you can do with this in the class is have a couple students come up, and you can add a friend to that, so that you guys can kind of see the difference between what my body will do when I drink a certain alcohol versus what somebody else's body will do for that. And so this is just a virtual bar. You can take students through it, reset the food, depending on, you know, just have that conversation with them like they're going to an actual bar. So then we would come back to this, talk about the different takeaways, like that. And then we would move into our next activity, which is our wacky facts one, and this is going to transition more into our drugs and drug use and things like that. So what students would do, there'd be a set, there's like about 25 facts that I have right now. Everybody will get a fact, and so what they'll do, they'll walk around the room and read their facts to at least 3 people, and you want to try to exchange your fact for the one that you find to be the most interesting. So different facts. The top reasons college students abuse prescription drugs are academic pressures, maintaining focus with late night study sessions, and dieting purposes. So you would walk around and see if somebody else has a more interesting fact than you. You have to exchange it with at least 3 people, so this gets students to see a variety of the different facts that we have. And then you bring them back to the front of the, we'll get back, you know, to get their attention again. And you would kind of highlight the ones that are really important that pertain to the Ole Miss campus, which are going to be the prescription drug use on campus. A lot of students abuse the ADHD medication and things like that. So talking about prescription drugs, you want to talk about the main reason college students use drugs. That's one of the big things on the Ole Miss campus is that they want to fit in for their sorority or fraternity. They just want to socialize with people. They need sleep. We have different data collected on students that show that those are the top reasons for the use of drugs. And then we want to talk about the types of substances that students are using and what happens when you mix alcohol with taking medication. So those are going to be the ones that you mainly highlight. So whenever you bring the students back to the front of the room, you want to just ask the students like, okay, now who has the one about ADHD medication? And so we'll go from there. And then what we talk about next is going to be the signs and symptoms of addiction. And so how we want to start this is talking to the class about, okay, what do you imagine when you usually think of somebody who has an addiction? And a lot of times it's going to be somebody that's portrayed to be homeless in a lot of senses. And so they're not going to necessarily think it could be their peer who's sitting right next to them that may be struggling with an addiction themselves. And so you want to be able to break down the different signs and symptoms of addiction. And with this, we want to really stress that language is important. So we want to say that individuals are people with an addiction and not an addict. That's becoming more of a stigmatized term, and so we want to break away from calling people addicts and say more or less that they're a person with an addiction. So just making sure that you're aware of the language that you're using during this portion is very important. And then here we have our different resources and making sure that students can reach out for help if they're battling any sort of addiction themselves, if they're dealing with alcohol issues. If they have a concern about a friend, there's this page on the Dean of Students, I believe, their website, that's a person of concern form. And students can go in and put their friend's name and what's been going on and why they have this concern. It's completely anonymous, and the Dean will actually reach out to handle the situation after that. So just making sure that they know that if there's a friend struggling with that, they can talk to somebody without necessarily exposing themselves in a certain sense. But just making sure students know about the different resources that we have on campus is important. And then at this portion, like I said, we have a couple different surveys that we would want the students to take. So there's a very similar form that we use for the sexual health one that we would also use for the alcohol and drug presentation. And so if you could have the students fill that out, and there's no name or anything associated with it, it's just general information. And then collect those and turn them back into me, and I can start collecting data on our presentation. So that's what I have for you on that one. Are there any questions?
On the previous page, one of the things you had as a resource was the collegiate recovery community. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so basically this is just a resource that we have talking about people who have faced addiction, alcohol typically related, and these people, they come together every Tuesday, and they meet together to talk about kind of like a support system for themselves. So,
Like AA.
what was that?
That model. It's an AA model.
Yes.
For students, I was just going to say Susan Nicholas, who's a fellow
Yeah.
EDHE instructor, is I know she's on the board of CRC, and she actually may be the mentor. What am I trying to say?
The advisor.
Yeah. And she, her office is in Hume Hall.
So is that who the student ends up talking to when they call that number?
I'm not sure about that.
That's Erin Crowley's.
Yeah, that's not Susan's number.
Okay.
Erin has been the one facilitating these meetings this summer, and I don't know if that's something that switches during the school year. I just started this summer, so I'm not really sure. From what I've seen, it's just been Erin, but it may switch during the school year. So I can check in on that, but as of now, that would be the number that they call.
Are any of these things a part of disciplinary actions as well? For a student that has had a strike or something like that is required to go to something like collegiate recovery community or something like that?
Students who deal with alcohol-related strikes will go through Rebel Aid usually, which is our program it's our alcohol education component, the thing that I was talking about, where students, if they have medical amnesty, they're still going to have to go through those educational sessions. But the difference is that Rebel Aid, you're going to have to actually pay for that when you've been given a strike. And so students are required to sort of hold themselves accountable for that. And so the Office of Student Conduct will give us those names, and we have to reach out and like schedule the appointments for them, but that's going to be Rebel Aid, more or less.
It could, because conduct has wide latitude to put whatever kind of sanctions they want on a student.
Actually, for strike cases, there's a minimum sanction, which includes Rebel Aid, community service, and
Something else, the last one.
probation.
Yes.
For an academic year, I believe
For
so.
one full
For one
365
full 365 days, and so they'll have to do those things. It's either Rebel Aid or Communicare. Rebel Aid is through university, Communicare is through community. It's the October Day community, and they have to do one of those two things. I think a lot of them, the difference is Rebel Aid can go under Versar.
Yeah.
Communicare, they can pay out of pocket, so like if they don't want their parents to know, they can go pay for Communicare by themselves. But Rebel Aid will go under Versar. But they have to do those three things. There's not.
You can't get around that.
Those are gonna happen no matter if you had a beer or if you got completely trashed and arrested on the square. That's gonna happen. And then there's something else I was gonna say. Oh yeah, so like she said, medical amnesty, they will still go through the educational parts of that, but they wouldn't necessarily have a convict record, nor would they be put on probation and that sort of thing, so they don't receive a strike. And then, parents are notified, unless there's like a super compelling reason that they would not. Like I know they've had a couple of students say, if you tell my parents that I got in trouble with alcohol, like my physical life could be in danger. They would then probably not send that letter home, but they also will generally do that no matter what.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to point out is that Rebel Aid does have activities that help students realize how much they are drinking. For like, they have alcohol pouring activities, so they take shot glasses and pour into what they would normally make as a mixed drink, so then they realize how many drinks they're actually having, because they think 4 shots in a drink is a real drink, and it's not. So whenever we did that last year in the ADHD class, they were shocked that that's how much they were actually drinking. So I think it is could be beneficial if we taught this presentation at the beginning of the semester, since it is going to be football season. They're freshmen, they may have not drank before, and they're in that environment. So I think it would help a lot if we would teach that at the beginning of the semester.
Is there any other comments or questions?
And the Rebel Aid students or GAs can come and teach that for you.
All right, so right now I'm just passing out my business card, and if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to contact me, and I just thank you guys for your time.